What was the detail? What was the kernel?
A phone rings, Finney answers, and it's the grabber calling him from hell. I was just like, oh, fuck yeah.
From what I understand, Joe Hill came to you with an idea. And this was during post-production on the first one. And
No, this was after that. We were very obstinate. We did not want, we never want to make a movie just to put a number after the title. The Black Phone had done very well, and that's where people started going, what about number 2? And we were like, only if there's a good enough idea. And we hadn't heard the good enough idea yet. So that's when he called me up while we were having those discussions.
What was the detail? What was the kernel?
A phone rings, Finney answers, and it's the grabber calling him from hell. I was just like, oh, fuck yeah. He called me up and I was like, you have to call Scott. And so he sent Scott an email just with all of the stuff laid out. And Scott was like, yeah, there's a movie here.
What is maybe a memory you carried from your childhood at these type of camps that found its way into
I think specifically the dangerousness of the weather and the idea of these old structures that were old in 1982, the way they would rattle in the storms and they didn't feel safe when you're in them.
I was a camp counselor in my youth. I worked at a Christian youth camp, and I had a horror movie experience at one of those camps where we were literally on a weekend where most of the kids were gone. I was one of the only counselors on taking care of the stayover kids who would stay more than 1 week. And we had a guy in a mask break into the girls' cabin, and one of the girls walked in and saw a guy with a mask and a weapon, and she took off, and we had to grab the kids and get the rifles from the rifle range and hole up at the main house while, we called the police and had them scour the grounds and never found him.
They never found him?
No, we did not. So we spent the rest of the summer worried that there was some masked guy out in the woods. And once you've had that real experience, you start questioning everything that happens in a horror camp movie.
You of all people know that dead is just a word.
Well, and obviously Ethan is so good. He is so good in it, but also so repellent as this character. And I know he had some trepidation. I believe he initially said no the first time you approached him about Black Phone 1 because he's like, this guy's so evil.
Did he turn us down on that one? It was Sinister that he really...
No, here's what happened. What happened was we'd finished the script. We didn't write the role for him. I mean, I think we hoped he would do it, but we wrote the role in such a way it could be done by any good actor. And I sent it to him. And I told him that I was going to send him the script, and I dropped it into into just a text. And he texted me pretty quickly and said, look, I'm going to read this because it's you, but I'm just telling you right now, I don't really play villains. I'm probably not going to do this, but I will take the time, and I have a couple hours tonight. I'll read it tonight. And when I woke up in the morning, there was a voicemail. And it was him reading a line of dialogue in the voice of the grabber. And that's all it was. It was him performing the grabber, which was his way of saying, I love it, I'm in. Because as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh my God, he's going to do it. Yeah, it was great.
And you mentioned Nightmare on Elm Street earlier. Do you see your interpretation of the grabber in this movie as kind of the heir apparent to the legacy of Freddy Krueger?
I don't know that I'd say that.
No. I mean, the thing is that we are adjacent to Nightmare on Elm Street. We definitely don't shy away from that and go, no, it's nothing like that. Of course, it was a big inspiration. Dream Warriors in particular was the big inspiration for us. We love Dream Warriors. Nightmare on Elm Street is the best of the series. Dream Warriors is everyone's favorite for a reason. It's just such a great movie. And but here, his rules, his powers, he isn't able to do something like Freddy Krueger does. Freddy Krueger is a vengeful spirit who is wreaking havoc on people that had nothing to do with him by the end of the series. Like, he's just killing to kill. And the grabber is a singular being of revenge that wants to get revenge on one person in the universe, and he wants to hurt that person so badly. And it is while adjacent to Krueger, it's its own thing, because it really is, the grabber isn't going to, pop up in other kids' dreams and start marauding them the way Freddy Krueger did. That's Freddy Krueger. This is very much about this spirit, these kids, their history, and that whole shared history together that creates this horror. So it's like I said, it's adjacent, but we really kind of wanted to go in a very different direction in terms of his powers, his motivations, and really what he was.
obviously Freddy in all the movies, maybe less so the original New Nightmare, but generally has a camp grandeur to him, an 80s gothicness. And whereas your character to me feels much more unseemly because we love the main character so much, but it's like it's none of the jokes, it's all of the sin.
Well, it's also, the biggest difference between the two characters is how talkative the Grabber is. His words are his weapons of inciting fear. The first part of his sadistic torture of his victims is scaring them with his language. And that's why we got Ethan to do this movie, because he is such an eloquent speaker and such an innovative interpreter of lines. And he says a lot in this movie, and he says a lot in the first movie. He's not running around doing one-line quips. Instead he's having speaking perfect paragraphs about the nature of hell itself. And I remember when we were shooting, he walked after we finished shooting the shot. There's one shot, and I shouldn't give it away. It's a spoiler. Anyway, he loves, I think, playing the Grabber because there is a theatricality to the Grabber. There's an operatic language that the Grabber uses, and Ethan is very good at that sort of thing, and I think enjoys doing it in innovative ways.
What do you think happens when you die?